This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. This is Erica Lukes. Always happy to be here, and I want to give a big shout out to all of my friends in chat. I know you spend your Friday nights with me, and you have no idea how much it means to me to get in there and see Phil and UFO author Susan, Libertas, Gil, everybody. I mean, you guys rock, and I'm here because of you, and I just want you to know that when you support the show and when I see you in there, it really means the world to me. And I want to say a big thanks to Northern UFOs, because he has been posting and sharing links to the show on different Facebook groups, one in particular in the field that I am a big fan of, and that really is awesome. I need your help to get archives out there and to spread the information, because it is my goal to really bring you the best researchers and people that probably are not known in the mainstream ufology. I mean, obviously, because we've got the same three people, but that's another story. We're going to talk to John about that one in a little bit. But my guest tonight is so cool. He's on the same TV show, and I'm hoping that we're going to get ready to film season 2 here in October. He has spoken at a couple conferences with me, and he is just an intelligent, thoughtful man who is really a beautiful orator. I mean, he gets up there and has a lot of information, but the coolest part about John is he got into this and really went for it at a young age. John told me a story about him sending a letter to Stanton Friedman. And I mention this every time I see John, and I'm sorry to do this, John, but this is like the coolest story, because he wrote a letter to Stanton when he was younger and just starting out in this field, and Stanton actually wrote him back, and it was really a wonderful thing, and it really, I think, inspired John. We can talk a little bit more about that, but it's a cool story. And I was speaking at a conference in New Mexico with John and Stanton, and that was really fun. In fact, I think I told that story on stage, but it was just a really touching thing. And I think that's wonderful when you've got older people in the field who are willing to be mentors and get younger people excited and to encourage them. That's a very cool thing. John Greenewald has been researching the inner workings of the U.S. government, and he started at the tender age of 15 with targets like the CIA, FBI, Pentagon, Air Force, you name it. He has done 1 million Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIA requests. And if any of you know anything about these, it actually does cost a considerable amount of money to obtain FOIA requests. And I'm sure John can share more information about that. But he has everything on the Black Vault, including the JFK assassination. He has great information from Dugway Proving Ground, which I will go on there and look at quite frequently. He is also a producer, and he has worked on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel, A&E, Fox, NBC. He's got lots coming up with regard to TV, and we'll talk more about that. John, I'm so excited, finally.
I'm excited. I'm excited as well. Thanks for inviting me on.
No, it's so cool, and I have to say that every time I get to hang out with you and hear you talk, it's a very, very cool thing for me, because you just have so much, not only passion, but you have intelligence. You can see what's going on in the field, and you really, really deeply care about this subject. And that's, I think, when you get out here and you start lecturing and you see people that are in it for the wrong reasons or just jaded and bitter, whatever, you don't see that passion and that spark that you have.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a while, actually. If you could believe it, I fired off my first FOIA request. I just celebrated my 21st birthday here for the Black Vault on August 11th.
Oh my God. Happy birthday.
I appreciate that. Yes, the Black Vault can legally drink now in most states. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. But yeah, it was August 11th of 96, and I was 15 years old and fired off a FOIA request. It was actually specifically to the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I knew what I was requesting, meaning the document had been out before. I was not, I don't claim to discover this or anything, but I had read about what was called the 1976 Iran incident. And I really, for anybody who's familiar with the case, I just did not believe that it was real. And that's when I learned about the Freedom of Information Act at the age of 15, fired off the request. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, that government agency sent me that 4-page document, and verbatim what I read on the internet at the time was absolutely 100% real. And that was it. That got me hooked. And here we are 21 years later, collected about 1.6 million pages now, literally, about 1.6 million pages on every government secret you could ever imagine, UFOs being probably the most popular. But that's how I started, not to go off on a tangent, but that was it. So it's kind of a special time around now because 21 years ago, this is around that time where I really got hooked on what the FOIA really was and how powerful it was. And I started firing off those FOIA requests pretty much everywhere.
And that's so cool. And it takes a lot of tenacity to do this. Even when you're doing UFO research, I was surprised at how many researchers don't do FOIA requests.
I'm surprised as well. And I think that the one thing that I always try and convey, whether it be on the radio or television or in public lectures, what I always want to convey is the process works. It takes a little bit of time and patience, a lot of patience actually, but it works. And a lot of researchers just assume, and you know what they say about assuming, they just assume that the government is not going to give them anything or respond, or they're going to black out everything. And that's not true. And I think the Black Vault serves as a prime example that the process does work. Are there frustrations along the way? Yes. I mean, I could bore you to death for days on end and tell you stories that, would kind of probably knock your socks off. But in the same respect, you can look at documents that you would never think would see the light of day. And it's the FOIA that brought them out. So I wish more researchers would use it. I really do wish that, people would fire off a FOIA request and see what happens. I mean, it's not an instantaneous process. You're not going to get what you request overnight, but it works. And that's always something that I try and convey.
Well, and I think that's so cool. And I have become friends with Barry Greenewald. I talk about him almost in every show. And to me, for him to sit there and tell me these stories about how much is just sitting there, how much information is just sitting there, all it takes is one person like you, like Barry, to go in there and to start requesting this and then accumulating the data and getting it out there for people. And I wish that everybody could just take a little bit of time to do some extra work.
Yeah, and it is amazing how much they do have. I mean, I always use the example of the National Archives, and for those who don't know what the National Archives is, I mean, essentially it is our nation's library. And a lot of times government documents will be retired there. So if a CIA document is 40, 50, 60 years old, they don't feel the need to have it anymore. They'll kind of push it over to the archives. They don't measure the amount of information they have on a particular topic in the number of pages, like, us humans actually do. They actually measure it by the amount of cubic feet of information. And so what they do is they measure how many feet and feet of documentation that's out there. So it really is, it's mind-boggling how much is there. And obviously in the electronic age where things are digital now, it truly is mind-boggling on how much information is there. And we can get it. I mean, we can't get everything, don't get me wrong. It's a long process that involves quite a few what they call exemptions. There's only about 8 or 9 of them under the FOIA that if information falls under certain criteria, they're either going to black it out or not give it to you. But a lot of it is accessible. You just have to ask for it, and in some cases fight for it. But the process does work.
And I just want to say, you mentioned the National Archives, and one of my favorite researchers, Keith Chester, spent a considerable amount of time at the National Archives doing research for his book Strange Company about the World War II Foo Fighters. And what he obtained was absolutely staggering. So that's it. And I've got somebody in chat, Susan, who's going to be in DC in less than 2 weeks, and she's saying, what shall I investigate? And I'm thinking, Susan, we need to talk.
Yeah, there's a lot. And if Susan or anybody who's listening, if you're thinking about going to the National Archives, do it. You had brought up Erica Stanton Friedman, and I'll bring him up again, actually, and it's not connected to your story. But after that happened, when I wrote Stanton that letter, we became friends ever since. I mean, he was the only, and I'm not exaggerating, the only guy that responded to me. And I wrote many, many of the big names in the field of ufology and so on. And Stanton was the only one that wrote back. And I was so taken back by that as a 15-year-old kid, because this guy actually cared. And he sent me stuff for free on his own dime. He sent me envelopes worth of his research to kind of get me started. So anyway, after a couple years, we found ourselves lecturing at a symposium together in D.C., and we ended up going to College Park, Maryland, to the National Archives together. Now, going to the National Archives is a treat in itself. Going with Stanton, that's a whole different, the whole different ball game. So it was very, very cool, because we were both pulling different documents and we were both on different missions, but pretty much sitting we were sitting at the same table, pretty much with the same agenda, and that was looking for the truth of whatever we were researching at the time. And it was an amazing experience, but that information that very few people touch is. It's something that I can't explain. If you love history, Susan or anybody else, definitely go. I'll tell you one other very quick story. The National Archives, not only in College Park, Maryland, which is one of their big branches, they also have the one in Washington, D.C. itself, and that's the one that has like the Declaration of Independence and all the stuff we read about in our history books. But College Park is the one where they have just a ton, millions and millions of pages of documents. But the National Archives is also in charge of all the presidential libraries. And one time I went to the John F. Kennedy Library, and I was doing research for a History Channel show that I was producing at the time, and got to go there, and I pulled all these documents on something. I'm going through them, and they're the originals. Under the FOIA, you get photocopies, obviously. But when you're at a library, you're touching the actual originals. So I'm going through these pages and, reading this and reading that. And all of a sudden I came across a document that was signed by John F. Kennedy himself. It was the original. And, and those kind of things, especially in that library, are, pretty much put under lock and key. And they did not know that this was still accessible to researchers, that they could essentially just crumple it in a ball or destroy it or steal it. And so I had told the archivist, but not after about 5 minutes of just staring at it and holding it, going, President Kennedy actually held this and signed it himself, And it was an amazing experience. And, the information is one thing, but the history, again, I get pretty cheesy about it, but the history is a whole different ballgame when you're looking at this information, because sometimes when you're at the library or at a presidential library or the archives, or even with a FOIA request, sometimes you are the first person outside the United States government ever to lay eyes on it. And in some cases, you're the first person to see it in decades. Literally. It'll sit in a box.
God.
And nobody sees it. So, yeah, Susan, back to your question. I mean, if you want some ideas, I can give you some. And I'm a big collector of FBI files. So on the blackvault.com, if you go under the FBI file section, there's literally, thousands and thousands of pages to download. And the National Archives, I've been able to get quite a few documents declassified. But the archives is a little tricky. They make you go there to actually get the documents, or they charge you 80 cents per page. This is the 21st century. It shouldn't take 80 cents to copy one cent. But regardless, that's what they do. So until I have the funds to go over there, I'm always looking for somebody who's going to the archives to have fun. And if they're bored and have no idea what to pull, I'll give you some file numbers because some of these files have never been seen before.
Oh, God, how cool. And I might have to, have a little chat with Susan too and have her do some stuff for me. But you're right. This is to be there and to just touch all of this. I had a friend that actually, her grandmother passed away, and she gave me she had a whole trunk full of original copies of Life magazine and all the newspapers from when the moon landing happened. And although they're not signed, declassified documents, just to pick that up and to look at it and know that, this was published in the late 60s, and it was chronicling, man's adventure in space. It was the coolest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I love history. And I think that as we know, history is what we're told. But I think that if we do digging, we can rewrite history.
I think so. And I think that the FOIA really gives us access to the real story. And I'll use Roswell, which, I'll be the first to admit is kind of a snoozy example, meaning Roswell has been investigated over and over and over and over again. And there's a lot of great theories out there, but we'll never know exactly what it is. But one of the things I do, especially when I give public lectures, is I start out with this very brief story about Roswell and what the government's last and most latest explanation is. And using the FOIA, I took what their explanation was and documents that came under FOIA and public information. And that is all I do to contradict 100% of all of their points. So they want you to believe something. But if you use the FOIA and look at documents, it completely contradicts their official line. And that's the real history. And that's why I've used FOIA now for, 21 plus years. And I probably will die using it as long as they don't cancel it or destroy it or do something silly.
Oh, that is so cool. And I bet you're on their list. They're just like, oh, God, John again? Really?
Well, the quickest response I ever got to a FOIA request to the FBI, and I've done hundreds and hundreds just to that agency, quickest response was for a file on myself. And they said there is. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I'll let anybody decide that one. I'm not sure what's scarier, though, is that I do something like this where I get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pages, and I put them all online for anybody in the world to see for free. I'm not sure why they wouldn't be interested in that, just to make sure I'm not getting something on accident, or I get something I'm not supposed to and I put it out there. Or, there's somebody who decides to tell me, hey, I've got this information that's top secret and you shouldn't have it, but I'm going to give it to you. I would hope that they would watch people like me because I'm the type of person that would not post something like that. George Norrie often asks me, would you disclose if somebody came to you with that irrefutable proof, but it was classified and, it was like an Edward Snowden type situation. And I don't support stuff like that. I believe that some secrets should be kept. I know that not everybody will love me for that answer, but I do think some secrets should be kept. But there's a lot I think that we should know, and that's why I post it all online. And whether or not they watch me or not, who knows? They claim that they don't. They claim there's no FBI file. Hey, all the more power to them if they just don't care. But deep down, I kind of wish they did.
I bet you they do. I bet you're on their list.
I would imagine, but
you're kind of good that way.
Yeah, maybe my son will grow up doing the same thing and find out long after I'm gone that these guys had a huge file on me and they were watching me, barbecue in the backyard and go swimming.
Oh, that's a little creepy, but hey, whatever it takes. So I've got a question. I just have to interrupt you really quick, but we've got a question. Before we go to break, I want to ask you this from Libertas. During the Reagan administration, the White House Science and Technology Subcommittee released a report with a chapter titled Physics of Consciousness, and he's wondering if that rings any bells.
That doesn't. I'm within driving distance of the Reagan Library, though. And I know that he was into quite a few things like that. I know that they had an astrologer at the White House during the Reagan administration. It doesn't surprise me that maybe there was some research and documentation on that. But off the top of my head, that doesn't ring a bell. Doesn't mean much, but it just doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. I mean, it sounds really interesting, and perhaps we need to hear from Libertas. Maybe you can call in and give us a little update on that. That would be really cool. But this is so fascinating, and I know I have gone to the Black Vault many times to look for things in my own research, and I can't believe what you have on there. It's incredible.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it'll keep you busy for a while, and there is information there that really isn't available anywhere else. So you pick your government secret. If it's UFOs, there's a ton of stuff there. But also, if you're interested in other government secret type topics, I mean, there's pretty much anything within reason, because there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. But there's a lot of stuff there to read.
So, before we go to break, what's your favorite topic?
UFOs is probably my number one, just because the topic is so deep. I mean, not only on a government document level, there is some amazing information in that respect, but when you just deal with the topic intellectually and morally and scientifically and all of those aspects to that one particular topic is fascinating to me. And it is what got me into television production and working with History Channel, Discovery Channel, and you named quite a few of the networks I work with. And doing shows for them allows me to really dive deep into these topics and really kind of get to the nitty-gritty. And I think that's why UFOs is my number one, just because there are so many layers to it. And government documents and conspiracy theories is one thing, and that's fascinating. But there's so much more to it, and that's what kind of puts that in the number one category for me. But there's quite a bit else that's there, so it really is kind of hard to pinpoint for me, because there's so much history within the government. They've done the U.S. government. They've done bad things. They've done amazing things. They've done patriotic things. They've done sickening things, and it's the FOIA that gives us access to those things to figure out what exactly have they done and what are they capable of. And in this day and age, I think that's very important, that we have to look back in time and see what they're capable of, both in a good way, but also the bad way as well.
Well, and since I live in Utah, and I'm close to a certain place that I've mentioned about 5 times tonight, that it is important to really look and dig into things, I think, just for multiple reasons, just to be a concerned citizen. So I think it's really cool that we have access to that, and that you've done such an amazing job from a really, really young age. You pretty much rock.
Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And we're going to take our first break, so stick around. Keep asking those questions. Make sure you call in. I am Erica Lukes here with John Greenewald on the best radio station on the planet, KCOR. We will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
It was a typical Floyd Mayweather fight where he kind of lounges back for a couple rounds, lets the guy get tired, and then he throws a few punches and wins the fight.
It's over. Okay. Well, was the guy good though? Was he a good fight? I did not get a chance.
It was interesting to watch. It felt weird. I described watching the fight as having been with a really expensive hooker that only gave me oral and then made me finish with my hand.
Wow.
Is that clear enough for you, Dave?
I'm sorry I pushed
really
that button. I'm sorry I pushed that button.
It was kind of cool, kind of weird, and then kind of disappointing, okay?
Thanks for sharing, in the words of Dave. That's
you had
to ask. I had to poke the bear.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift, hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy and Kent Dunn. Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
America's favorite radio station just keeps getting better.
Hello, people. Aaron Hunter here, host of the show Real Paranormal Activity, where we tell the true stories of the paranormal from people like you. We also interview authors, mediums, psychics, and investigators as we dive headfirst into the murky waters of the paranormal. We discuss subject matter such as orbs, shadow people, paganism, the occult, and the demonic. Join me on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, here at KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Oh, well, happy Fantopia Friday, everyone. I can see the chat room is busy, and I want to just thank all of you for taking the time. I know I have listeners from all over the world. You're messaging me and finding me on Facebook or UFOclassified.com. It means a lot to me. Please make sure you share information about the show on KCOR and UFOclassified.com. We have archives, so you can really get good information there. I interview people like Ted Rowe, the executive director of NARCAP. Fran Ridge from NICAP has been on. Barry Greenwood, Dr. Massimo Teodorani, Erling Strand. They are all incredible, and you don't hear from a lot of them very often. Speaking of Erling Strand, I get to, in 18 days, I will be with Erling in Hessdalen, Norway, and I will be conducting field research with a scientific team from Åtsfjord University. This is going to be incredible, and I look forward to sharing highlights. So you can go to Facebook and look at my trip, and I'll give you updates. And then I will also be documenting everything that I'm doing over there and hopefully putting forth a little documentary or videos so you can see what's happening. This is such an incredible place, and if we're talking about scientific data, then you cannot go anywhere other than Hessdalen to get good information. My guest tonight is, he was a boy genius and had a really supportive family. I know that John has mentioned his father and how wonderful, what a great influence he was. He is relentless at requesting FOIAs, and he's put together the Black Vault, which just celebrated their big anniversary. So happy anniversary. The Black Vault, if you haven't been there, you need to go, and you can look at declassified documents from almost any subject. It is absolutely incredible. John is also an amazing producer for the History Channel, Discovery Channel, Learning Channel. He is doing a lot in TV these days, and he was also on a TV show with me that we both got to film down in Austin, and that was called UFOs: The Lost Evidence, and hopefully some of you have seen it. If not, I think you can catch the archives online somewhere, so make sure you check that out. But John, have you heard anything about season 2?
I have not. No, sadly I didn't get to see the series. I know that they replayed it on Destination America, but here in Southern California, my cable provider did not have, or at least my package did not have that channel, so I didn't see any. Don't tell anybody. I'm glad we're not on the radio.
Seriously, that is so bad. Well, actually, you know, it was really crazy because they re-released it on Destination America.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I want to find it. I just have been unable to do so. But I haven't heard on season 2. It was a lot of fun down there. Austin, where we shot it, is one of my favorite cities to visit on the planet. I mean, I love that city. So that in itself, I hope there's a season 2. But I heard it was a great show. There was a lot of feedback on it, a lot of good buzz about it online that I saw anyway. So yeah, hopefully there will be a season 2, but I have not heard anything.
I know. I heard a little bit, and they said that it was looking like a go. So hopefully in October we'll be down there filming that again. I thought they did a good job, and I think the thing that I liked about it was they were actually bringing on different people.
Yeah, I think I think television is trying to get into, faces that we don't see very often, and in a good way, that they don't want that same information over and over. And I kind of got that vibe from the show as well, that they wanted to kind of branch out with the information and then the voices that told it to us, that, they wanted to do their job right, but also have some new and different faces, because, there are a couple people that are on television a lot, and that's not a bad thing. But I think some networks, they want something different. They want to have a different take on it, and so that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, well, I have to say that I honestly think that that's a good thing, because it's like, my gosh, how many ways can we hear the same people saying the same things? You know what I mean? And it's really we wonder why we're not engaging a younger demographic. And I think that this is exactly why, because you're seeing the same 3 people telling the same stories.
Yeah, and it's challenging. I mean, it depends on what hat I'm wearing. Obviously, I've been in this UFO field for 21 plus years. So if I'm wearing that hat, I can kind of understand and want to see the new voices. But the producer hat of me says, there are very few out there that really take some of these topics seriously. And that's the sad truth. Like you said, there's not a whole lot of new, younger people involved. So if they're not involved, how can we put them on the air? And there's just not a whole long list of people to really put on shows like this. And so it makes it very challenging, I think, to a producer who comes in. And I've got an unfair advantage when I go out and do a show on UFOs or that related niche. I've got a leg up just simply because I've been around for a long time, and I know the people involved, and I know a new angle or different angle or so on, but I don't work on everything. There's a lot of shows that I have nothing to do with that are on this topic. And so you've got a producer that possibly just came from a show on quilting, and then now all of a sudden they're thrown in to do a UFO paranormal show. and I mean, it's funny, but it's
quilting.
Yeah.
Well,
seriously. I mean, and there were a lot of producers that I worked with literally did shows on quilting for HGTV.
No,
I'm being serious. Yeah.
Oh dear.
For
HGTV.
Well,
I mean,
get hired.
The world needs quilters, I suppose.
But it's the world of freelance television. Just fill in the blank. Quilting, or it could be on food, or it can be on some race car series, whatever. Producers are producers. We just need to produce and write. It doesn't necessarily, we don't demand a certain topic. We can't. The television world is too small and too demanding to just say, well, I'm only going to work on UFO shows, because your career would be over very, very quickly. So, the producers that do a lot of these shows, they really have to get their PhD in ufology in a day and a half and try and figure it out. And I think that too is no excuse, but that's why you see a lot of the same faces, because they're easily found and they're on a lot. And so why rewrite the recipe, and they put them on. So that's,
Well, I could give you a lot of reasons why.
why what?
Well, why you should rewrite the recipe.
Oh no! I don't disagree. Like I said, it depends on what hat I'm wearing, and when I do a show on ufology and anything related to the paranormal, you'll notice a different spin to it. At least I like to think that. There was a show I did many years ago for History Channel called UFO Hunters. Now, this is not the series. We all know the series UFO Hunters with Bill Burns and Pat Uskert. And I did go on to work on season 3 of that show. They were a fun group of people to work with. I've known Bill for a long, long time. So, there's nothing bad about that show. But I did a show. It was a 1-hour documentary. We called it UFO Hunters. And it was part of the UFO Files series. And it was one of the first shows that I actually created. I was hired in by a great production company to essentially create a show. And the show that I created about UFOs, I mean, I had some direction. And so I came in and I wrote a show, and it was all about the people of ufology. It wasn't about Roswell, and it wasn't about, whatever fill in the blank UFO thing that we've heard about 12,000 times. It was a chance for me to do something and profile the people, the Stanton Friedman, the Ted Phillips, the amazing researchers that have devoted, twice as many years that I've had, and I've got 21 years under my belt, and some of these guys have been in for much, much, much longer, and they are so dedicated. So I was able to do this show, and it was different. Of course, we talked about UFOs and the cases that they investigated, but the whole point of the show was to show the people that do it. And it was a different take. And that actually went on to spawn a couple other shows that we did under the UFO Files banner. And then obviously the History Channel then created the series of UFO Hunters to go out and investigate in that reality TV format. And even though I worked on the show, I'm not a big fan of that format because, sadly, UFO research is not as exciting as we want it to be. I mean, we'd love to have it be like CSI, where there's music that just comes down.
Oh, you've never been out in the field with me.
Do you have music like that from CSI?
I do have my own theme music, and it's quite an adventure, let me tell you.
Well, I'll have to get the Erica cape next time I go out into the field. And
dun, dun, dun.
But, it's interesting to us, and we love doing it and being in the field and doing things. But to a television show, it makes it very challenging. So that's why I think a lot of the UFO reality series have not done very well or have not lasted long for that reason.
Well, I mean, I think that, though, too, when you look at the UFO field, I mean, there are a lot of incredibly intelligent people. I mean, a lot of dedicated people that are good on the back end and that aren't necessarily good on the front end with the media, with communicating, with making things exciting. And so it's a different type of person that can relay a message like that and do it effectively, if you know what I mean. And so maybe somebody going out in the field who is, a diehard nerd and very quiet and not that exciting, maybe that's a different, I don't know. Maybe if there was somebody really exciting, it could be a different thing.
No, I agree. It's a challenge. It really is to even if they are dynamic and excellent on camera, it's actually less about that, but it's more so about the time it takes to do a lot of these UFO investigations. And so the time it takes for me to put together a 1-hour documentary or 1-hour show on television is much, much, much quicker than it is to do a true UFO investigation in the field. And UFO investigations in the field, the real ones, the ones that really deserve scrutiny, in my opinion, are few and far between. So to make a series about the best ultimate UFO cases, in my opinion, they just don't happen often enough, and that's where the challenge is from a production standpoint. Is budgets are very, very limited. Sadly, and I'll dispel this myth: the public thinks that it's a television show, you guys got a lot of money. It's actually not true. It's quite the opposite. And especially this day and age, where budgets get smaller and expectations get higher. Many years ago, I would produce a show for History Channel and have 5, 6, 7, 8, producers, writers, and people in the pre-production side of it. Now, I'm not trying to blow any secrets here, but now I literally do it by myself at home in my pajamas. I mean, that's kind of how it is, where we're working from home a lot now because a lot of production companies, they just hire in outside producers and writers, and we do a lot of these shows in our home offices, and we don't have the staff, we really just have to put in the time and the blood and the sweat and the tears and then go out and shoot it over the course of a week and then come back, and then post-production's a different beast. But that's when we essentially take everything that we wrote, everything that we shot, and now we make it a show. Now we put it all together in the edit bay and so on. So it's a challenge. And, my answers vary on which hat I am wearing. And I know that that's a little confusing, but it's just I can see both sides. And both sides, I think, have a lot of advantages and disadvantages.
Well, we're going to have to chat off the air. I have some ideas for you.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All right.
But I want to get back to some of the things that you've discovered with the FOIA requests, and specifically about UFOs. What have been some of the most startling documents that you have come across?
Well, I started with the 1976 Iran incident. And again, I don't claim to have discovered this. This was around many years. And in fact, don't quote me on this. I think Barry Greenwood and Larry Fawcett were the first to discover it. I'm not sure on that. I don't want to take away from who exactly was the first one to get this 4-page document. But regardless of that, this was what I had read about when I was 15 and read this report that literally, when you read it, it kind of reads like an X-Files episode where, you have no other way to describe it, but like this mothership type scenario where a UFO in the sky has multiple UFOs that come out of it, had strategically shut down 2 separate F-4 Phantom jets. And this is all documented within the U.S. Government's documents. And we still, here in 2017, do not have any kind of explanation whatsoever. And so my point with this is that in 1976, this was 7 years after the close of Project Blue Book, that the United States Air Force says that there was nothing to the UFO topic. Nobody cares about it. The phenomena is not real. It's easily explainable. And yet 7 years later, the U.S. government documents this case. You can erase everything else. There's more, but you can erase everything else except this one. And it should tell you there's something to this topic. Maybe the phenomena is easily explainable 99% of the time. That's fine. Who cares? But 1 out of 100 cases or 1 out of 1,000, it doesn't matter. If you have something that's this staggering, it deserves closer scientific scrutiny. It's like the cure for cancer. We keep looking for it. We haven't found it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And so some people look at the UFO phenomena in the wrong way. And I think that the 76 Iran incident in this document, even at the age of 15, and let me tell you, I was a punk kid, naive, and had no idea what I was getting myself into. Looking at this document, I realized then, hey, wait, there's something here. There's something to this topic. And so that's why I then started firing off more FOIA requests and seeing what else was there. So whenever I'm asked that question of what you had just asked, what kind of information really is there, I have to bring up that one because that to this day is unexplainable. You can't figure out what happened. It's technology that we kind of don't even have today. And it's there for us to read, and the government will give it to you if you ask for it. Now, there's one other aspect to that document that goes to the root of your question. You can read this document. Nothing is redacted. Nothing is classified. Now, the reason why I bring that up is there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages that are still considered top secret on the UFO topic that I can show you that are blacked out from top to bottom, or they just tell you they can't even give them to you at all, because it would be a threat to national security if they showed it to you. So now I put 2 of those pieces of the puzzle together. One, the 76 Iran incident, which you can read, If you can read that and it's that amazing, what do you think is underneath all that black? What do you think is still considered top secret to this day on the subject of UFOs? And so it must be that much more cooler than that original document that I found. So that is another way to kind of answer your question. There are all of these documents that are still top secret on a phenomena that the government doesn't want you to think is real, that they believe is explainable. And, skeptics who are listening and skeptics who have looked at these documents, a lot of times they'll tell you, well, it's just misidentified military aircraft or, a space phenomena, meaning like a comet or a meteorite or something like that in our atmosphere. But the problem with that is if it was a military aircraft, it wouldn't be a UFO to the military. And yet the military is the one that's saying it's a UFO, that they cannot explain it. Have things happened where, one guy reports something and it turns out to be a drone? Sure, that's going to happen. But that's not going to come up as a UFO case in the files of the U.S. military and the U.S. government. And yet you have all these records on unidentified flying objects that are chronicled well after the close of Project Blue Book, that are not leaked out. They are freely given out by the United States military and the United States government. And I think that those documents are definitely worth a mention. Again, those top secret records that they won't give you. So I think that that's another aspect to answer your question. I could keep going.
Yeah.
Again,
yes, you could, and you will.
Well, okay. So if you want me to keep going on that question, I think some of the other more interesting discoveries, one of which came just in the last year or so, came when I did a request to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC. And when I requested from the NRC for all UFO documents, I was actually surprised to get quite a few pages in response. And you can search, there's a Black Vault search engine. If you just search NRC UFO, you'll come up with this page. Anybody can read these. But one of the cases that was recently declassified that had never been out before, no one had ever seen these documents before, was a case that happened at Cooper Nuclear Station. That UFOs were seen over this nuclear station by a security guard. And he went in one night to tell his, security guard buddies, hey, come out and you got to look at this. And they all laughed at him. They went outside, the UFOs were gone. And so the next night, after being laughed at, the next night they showed up again. And so he goes back in, says, guys, come out. And as the report shows, this time they weren't laughing or making jokes because all of them saw it. It was documented that there were over a dozen witnesses to UFO seen over this nuclear station. And this guy wasn't crazy. So he sat on it, though. He sat on this report and this experience for many, many years. And a few years ago decided, look, I'm retired now. I need to report this. I feel that the agency I used to work for should be made aware of this. And he filed a report. And the NRC took it. And they took it seriously. And they took the UFO report, made a document, another report out of that. Took that information, sent it to present-day Cooper Nuclear Station, and said, we felt you guys should see this, and don't show anybody. Keep it on a need-to-know basis. Only show the people that truly have a need to know. So obviously, this was important enough for them to chronicle, but on top of that, keep it on a need-to-know basis. So it shows you that the UFO phenomena is still a problem. Now, I'm not going to say UFOs are extraterrestrial and aliens and we're being invaded. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the UFO phenomena is still a problem and it still deserves an investigation. And the fact that the U.S. government and the military is so adamant about saying we're not interested, that's what keeps me going. That shows me that there's something more to the story. Because all they would have to say is, yeah, we take UFO reports and you know what? We explain all of them. So there's nothing really there, but of course we're going to take it seriously. That would be a really dull answer, and I probably wouldn't be as fascinated by this whole thing. But on the contrary, they want you to believe there is nothing there. It's the greatest trick of a magician. Look at my left hand because I don't want you to see what's going on in my right. And I think that that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you look away from the real problem.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I think that these documents show that it is a very serious problem.
And do you think, and this is a loaded question to ask right before we go to break, but do you think that they do that in the UFO community? Because I'm thinking that there's a lot of that going on right at the moment. Look over here when real stuff's going on over there.
Are you talking about like a disinformation thing or just?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, possibly. Are you saying the government's infiltrating the UFO community, or
I think that there's a little bit of something going on. Definitely.
I mean, it's possible. In the same respect, I think the UFO community is its own worst enemy. I would say that. I would say that in regards to government disinformation campaigns, government at this day and age really kind of doesn't have to do anything. I mean, I love the field that I'm in. I'm not trying to trash it, but there's a lot of dirt out there, and there's a lot of cruddy things that are going on. And so that's why I say it's its own worst enemy, because the government can just sit back and put their feet up and just watch everybody duke it out. And there's some, pretty sad things that go on in the state of the UFO community. Not everywhere. I'm just saying that, sadly, we're our own worst enemy in many cases. And that's why I think the general public doesn't take it as serious as it should.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, we definitely need to talk about that when we get back. I think the state of ufology, or whatever we're calling it, I mean, it is pretty pathetic, but I also think we haven't had professional standards or ethical standards, and we've allowed a lot of people to come in here who are just kind of capitalizing on people that have had really important experiences, and I think that we definitely are at a pivotal time when we need to clean things up, and we need to force people to take accountability for their actions, and we need to get a new generation in here. But anyway, on that note, we're going to take our break. I'm here with John Greenewald. You can go to theblackbelt.com and check it out. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you spread the word. And if you are feeling so inclined, please go to ufoclassified.com to donate. I appreciate that because everything helps when you're researching this and trying to get information out. It's an expensive process. But I want to, and speaking of that, my guest tonight knows all about that because it costs a considerable amount of money to do FOIA requests. And each person that comes into this field spends time and money and takes valuable time away from work and family and things. And so there are lots of sacrifices. we make to get the truth out there. And John Greenewald is a freaking saint. Let me tell you, the Black Vault, you can go to theblackvault.com, has, what did you say, more than 1 million pages of declassified documents?
The saint part, by the way, is debatable. But yes, 1.7.
I'm trying to butter you up there.
I appreciate that. Yes, I forgot I'm paying you for that. 1.6 million pages, actually.
Gosh.
Is the count, yeah.
That is incredible, and I love the fact that you got into this when you were so young, and you had the support of your father, because I know you've mentioned him before, and that's so cool. That's great.
It was a challenge in the beginning. I'll tell you that. Mom and Dad, by the way, I got to throw Mom in there.
Yay.
Just because, Mom's always been my number one fan, even still to this day. Dad worked for a government contractor for many, many years. He worked for Rocketdyne on the space shuttle. So he's done amazing work, really amazing work. Obviously, Rocketdyne was bought out by Boeing and then Pratt & Whitney and all those corporate takeovers. But he worked on the space shuttle for many years. He also has the same name as I do. So I'm not officially a junior, but I adopted the junior because here was this 15-year-old kid firing off all these FOIA requests looking for pretty much any top secret information that he can get his hands on, who just happened to have the same exact name as somebody who's working for a government contractor on the space shuttle. So obviously Dad was very supportive, but reluctantly, because I think I made him really nervous. So on really quick stories, I used to put a photocopy of my student ID in every FOIA request that I did, because I didn't want them to confuse me with him, and so that really kind of proved that I wasn't him and that it wasn't him prying for information. So yeah, a little unknown, largely unknown fact about what my beginning stages were to try and separate my name from my dad. So I adopted Junior. Again, not a legal thing. I was never a junior until I started this. But again, just to reinforce, hey, I'm not that guy that works for a government contractor.
I want to see one of those FOIA requests.
One of the original ones?
Yeah, that would be so cool.
You know what's funny? I still have all of them. I have saved every single document that I've ever received or sent. And it's amazing to look at my signature over the years. I don't know why I'm so drawn to handwriting, but to see the signature go from when I was 15 to today, when I'm a lot older, and it's kind of funny to see that change, in handwriting and so on. Maybe I'm just old and blind now, and I can't see. But
is it just gone to a scribble?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like I'm a doctor without education.
Yeah. I don't even have that much going for me. It's just one line, and it's a short line at that, so I don't really know. But that's awesome that you've had support, and I think that's something when we get into this field, if you don't have a good support system around you, it makes it incredibly challenging. As we know, like all of this is when you're so passionate about things and it kind of takes over most of your life, it's the people that love you who aren't on board with that typically tend to pull away.
Yeah, and the support has been amazing. I mean, it is challenging when there's really no money to be made in scanning documents and giving them away for free. You make pennies from ad dollars, but that's about it. So you can't make a living, you can't pay the bills. So it's a challenge, but it's good to have that support because it kind of keeps you motivated to not lose interest and to keep pushing forward and to try and get answers. And that's where I got very lucky getting into television, because what got me into television was being on camera and doing on-camera interviews and falling in love with the way television was made. And I loved the cameras and the technology behind it and the lighting and, all the camera tricks. And so that's why I started the opposite direction and working behind the camera and actually making the television shows. And I just really wanted to really try and take as a serious approach as I could to the topic, and getting into a job that essentially, gave me a salary to make television. Not every television show I do is about UFOs or the paranormal, But it allowed me to at least do a full-time gig temporarily on researching UFOs and alien life and astronomy and stuff like that, and that's what made it really fun.
You know what, I think that's the cool thing, and I was thinking about that tonight. It's like no matter what comes of all of this, and I think all of us are here for our own selfish personal reasons because we've had something that's really shocked us, and at least I have, and most of the people listening, there's a big question we need answered, and whether I answer that question or not, the ride is freaking fantastic. As painful as it can be sometimes because people can be nasty in the field, but I've learned so much about the natural world, about space, about human behavior, and the possibilities, the limitless possibilities. And I love that. I love that I've improved as a human being, that I've grown as a human being because I've just really grabbed this and run with it. It's a really profound thing.
Yeah, and for me personally, a quick personal note is my idea of alien life when I started is almost completely different than what it is now. And I've completely changed the way that I kind of look at this whole topic based on a lot of the television shows that I had done on alien life and intelligence and advanced intelligence and so on and so forth. And it was those working like literally nonstop for months on some of these shows where, I mean, I kid you not, it was like getting a PhD in astronomy, and it was the one show I did, it was like a PhD in astronomy and astrobiology all in like 3.5 days because I had to research this thing to write a show based on alien life and the biology behind alien life and what kind of planet they would have to be on and so on and so forth. And I mean, I worked my booty off on trying to get a show that was fun. And to date, I would say that it's probably one of the most proud I've been on a show. And that was a show I did for History, part of their Universe series, which was very popular. And this one was called Alien Faces. And it was all about alien life and what it would look like should we find it in the universe. And so that working on that show really changed my life on the way I look at the universe and look at alien life visiting here and why would they be here. And it's a pretty deep topic.
So tell us about some of the people that you worked with, because no doubt you had alongside you people that were incredibly skilled in different areas.
Yeah, well, much more than me, let me tell you. So on this particular project, when I was given the premise, I was brought in as a writer and producer and director, and I literally had a one-line synopsis as a guideline. And they said simply this: if life exists in the universe, what does it look like? And that was it. That was all I had. And so I had to make a show out of that. So I sat down and really, I was not 100% fresh in my career, but I still, wanted to prove something with this, meaning I had done quite a few shows before this. This was going to be a challenge, but I wanted to make it the best I could. So I sat down and really thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And this was before I got anyone involved. And I thought, okay, let's make a hypothetical chunk of the universe. And we'll create 5 different planets, different environments, and talk about alien life. Now, this wasn't going to be walking, talking alien life that was abducting people. This was going to be just biological life. If we go to the zoo, this was like the zoo of the cosmos. And so I started writing this down and got approval, like, hey, look, this premise looks good, let's go with it. So I started reaching out to people I had interviewed before, which included Dr. Jeffrey Marcy, who was I think he's discovered more exoplanets in the universe than anybody out there. Dr. Michio Kaku, who I had known for a while at that point, who is an amazing individual. and Dr. Seth Shostak at the SETI Institute. So I kind of brought together all of these individuals. David Aguilar, who I stumbled on accident, who was by far one of the most amazing people to work with. He was from Harvard University. So the use of all these brilliant minds came together, and I started picking the minds of all these guys and gals and really trying to figure out what this show was. And so I'll never forget, and this was the start of the turning point for me when it comes to how I believe in alien life and intelligent life in the universe. And I was talking to Dr. Seth Shostak, and I asked him on the telephone, okay, so the premise is this, and I explained the show. I said, so if we were to see alien life in the universe right now, not a one-celled organism, unless you believe that that's the only thing out there, but if we were to see alien life in the universe, what do you think it would be? And this was over the telephone, and he says it would be a robot. And I started laughing, right? I giggled, and I realized he wasn't joking, and so then I felt like an idiot because here I was laughing.
Oh, God.
Because here I was thinking, well, this guy's seen the Terminator way too many times, so gotta go. Thanks for your time. But I realized he wasn't kidding. And so he started to explain this theory that in the scientific realm is actually very talked about and was at the time, this was a couple of years ago. But the idea and the concept is that biological life, given the theory of evolution is all true, and we all kind of form in a somewhat similar way, that eventually our biological shells will have to get away from that. Because what's better, to live forever or to die and shrivel a painful death most of the time when you're, 75? And so you've got this choice to make as a society. Some would never want to live forever. That's fine. Others would want to live forever to keep humanity alive. And so the question then becomes, what does humanity do at that moment? Because the Earth will die, not to be all, doomsday on you, but sooner or later, this planet will cease to exist. So what is going to happen? We're going to hop on the Starship Enterprise and go out there into the cosmos. Well, hopefully we have that capability. But the more likely scenario is to maintain the human race. We will have to upload ourselves to some kind of, artificial intelligence or a machine or so on. The other way to support that alien life would be a machine is simply put, look at what we are doing. We are sending robots into space. And although it is very, simple at this point in 2017, as the decades progress, those machines will be able to do more and more and more. And it won't just be scoop some dirt and run a test. It's going to be going out there and figuring out problems. It will be able to build things. It will be able to do whatever it is programmed to do. Now, take it a step farther. Here on Earth, the CPU is expected to surpass the power of the human mind in roughly about 2050. Now, it doesn't matter if it's 2050, 2075. That doesn't really matter. The moment that happens, and then we create artificial intelligence software to utilize that power, what happens? Well, we have a thinking machine that can do some amazing things. As it teaches itself to become more powerful and as it creates offsprings that are even faster, the theory is that all of a sudden you can do thousands of years of human thought in a matter of hours or days. And you truly have to think that that is where we are going as a society. And in the shows that I was producing, this one that I've kind of gone off on a tangent on, but this one specifically, I kept comparing it to here on Earth. I kept talking about what are we doing. When you look at the veterans that are coming back from overseas that are getting limbs blown off and, really horrific experiences, and what are we doing? We are putting mechanical extensions to help them with losing part of their biological self. Now, that's just a limb and that's just an extension, and it's simplistic in the sense that it's, not a thinking hand or anything like that. But they're starting to integrate it with the brain, right? So they're doing that. And sooner or later, there will be, the ability to pretty much replace our biological self. Now, getting into consciousness and everything else, like, well, what makes a human human? That's a whole different show in itself. I'd be more than happy to go into that, but that is a different topic. But my point is that when Dr. Shostak told me that over the telephone and explained it, I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And when I asked everybody else about it, pretty much everybody else agreed that when we see alien life in the universe, chances are a high probability it will be a machine. And that's how I made my show. The first 4 planets on this journey as a viewer, when you watch this thing, it was a pretty tough hour to put together. But the first 4 planets are all biological, but the 5th is machine and mechanical. And that's when I kind of really get into why it would be a machine and what happens. And it was a dead planet. And it was mining all the resources, and it was building a better version of itself so it can get off that planet and go elsewhere. And one of the final scenes of the show, as you kind of, the camera pans back of all these, robots on this planet, you see it's a dead, brown, lifeless, when it comes to biological anything, lifeless planet. And you all of a sudden see the outline of North America and South America and Europe. And the whole idea is that as you watch this show, that final planet is us in the future. That we are going to die. We're going to have to figure out what to do. So I know it sounds like a crazy theory, right? And I'm sure that you're probably all checked out that I've completely lost it. But it really does make a lot of sense. And what's fascinating.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah. And what's fascinating to me is the fact that the scientific community, not UFO guys and gals like us, not the paranormal researchers, it's the true scientists that are really, truly debating mechanical alien life in the universe. And that a lot of them think that is what we are going to find, that biological beings are going to start and sprout. But eventually, machine intelligence, artificial intelligence is the natural progression of intelligence. And that's where we're going. And it's fascinating. I mean, periodically you'll see a headline sneak into the mainstream media about, artificial intelligence and this and that. And some of the big names behind Google and, Elon Musk and all these guys, they're making comments like this is a real dangerous zone. This is a real dangerous area to start getting into because you need to control it, because you need to have some kind of grasp on what a thinking machine will actually do, not only to us here on Earth, but ultimately to the cosmos. And it starts to rewrite the definition of what the UFO phenomena really is. And so again, it's an amazing show, or amazing topic you can do multiple shows on, but that really changed and altered the way I look at the UFO phenomena, but also alien life in the universe.
God, that is so incredible. I have to watch that. But, you talk about Dr. Shostak, and I want to say, sometimes when you hear his name, the hair kind of stands up on end because he is viewed as somebody that is, even though he's involved in SETI and things, but that somebody who's a skeptic.
Yeah, he is, and I'm going to defend him. That's okay. I want people like him out there in the field. I don't think that he is a debunker. I believe that there is a difference between a debunker and a skeptic. There are a couple debunkers out there, and what I mean by the separation of the two is that a debunker just doesn't care if there is proof or not. They will do anything in their power to tell you it's not true, and that they will tell you your evidence is bunk because of X, Y, and Z. But a skeptic is somebody that's a lot harder to convince, but that's okay. I don't have any problem with that. Having worked with Dr. Shostak on multiple occasions and spent time with him and interviewed him on multiple shows, I'm not just saying this because there's a professional connection. I'm saying this because I truly, honestly believe it. He's incredibly smart, very intelligent, has a great sense of humor, and there is nothing wrong with him going out and not believing in the UFO phenomena. I believe it's people like him that push us to keep going for the evidence that we need to prove to people like him, hey, there is much more to it. Just because he hasn't seen what he needs to believe doesn't mean it's not out there.
So if he were to receive an invitation to Heshtalen, would he go? or would he spend time looking at the 30 years of data that Oxford University and Erling Strand and his colleagues have collected? Because to me, that seems like pretty impressive scientific data. Yeah. So, when you look at people that are skeptical, are they really looking at all the data?
I'm not going to speak for him, so I have no idea.
Then. Can you give him that message?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy, but I think he would probably love to hear from you, because the great thing that I've learned about him over the years that I've seen, not only from personal interaction, but just have seen, is that he writes you back. A debunker is largely just writing these like scathing articles about, witness X or case Y, and they're saying that this is all crazy and they're hallucinating and this and that. But he strikes me as someone different. He'll write people back and communicate. And I've seen that on multiple occasions. Does he believe in stuff like that? It doesn't sound like it. I'm not going to speak for him. Doesn't sound like it, but it sounds like, he'll look at it. Will he hop on a plane and go? I don't know. It's also not his research forte. You have to keep that in mind, too. A lot of these guys are so focused into one particular niche. Right. And, that the UFO phenomenon is not his niche. Alien communication is. And, I know you're coming up on a break, but really quickly, I got to do a show for Discovery Channel all about alien communication. That was one of the few times that I got to go up there and, spend some time at the Allen Array and see the people behind the work that they do. And that's why I'm passionate about what they do, because they're not looking for UFOs. That is not what they do. That is not what they want to do. They want to look for communications, and they want to look for signals. And
I love it.
Go back, and that's what they do. And
you have reinvigorated me and my faith.
I'll convert anybody.
Woohoo! I'm Erica Lukes here with John Greenewald. We'll take a break, and we will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Woven throughout the universe are keys to a hidden message, awaiting a voice that can decipher their coded meaning, a cosmic connection to the cosmos. Tune in to the KCOR Digital Radio Network at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern for Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection. Cosmic Connection with astrologers Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard. Your weekly astrology reading is but a phone call away. So call Cosmic Connection Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and get your free reading today. Cosmic Connection with Caroline Lynch and Merlin Wizard, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we take the KCOR Digital Radio Network off the grid and go deep inside the Paranormal Vault. Jump on the elevator and come take the ride down the rabbit hole of reality with BK Mojave and The Watcher as they unlock the vault and dust off some of their classified paranormal case files even the government doesn't know about. The Paranormal Vault, Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the one show our secret government fears will speak the truth.
That's good. Good.
Turn your radio up.
I love it. All the music I want to hear. This is my station.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. You are listening to the best and most professional digital broadcasting network on the planet. And I will say that, Tina, I adore you. Even if you don't agree with me sometimes, that's okay. I think you rock and you are so professional. You support me and everyone on the station. And I just am very happy to be here. And you are trouble. I'm telling you, we're going to go do our little Thelma and Louise thing. Go take on the world. That'll be great. But I am here with John Greenewald, who's been dedicated and researching and archiving and relentlessly pursuing the UFO topic and much, much more. And you can go to theblackvault.com. He has over 1 million declassified documents on there. And it is so cool. We were talking about Seth Shostak and some of his adventures in TV land and the brilliant work that he's done. And I think that it's interesting because before we went to break, we were talking about Dr. Shostak. And in this field, Stanton Friedman was on my show a few months ago, and we have discussions every time I see him about Seth Shostak and some of the quote unquote debunkers or people that he has dealt with in his lifetime. But it sounds like, John, from what you're saying, that Seth is just an absolutely wonderful person who would be open to looking at information.
Well, again, I don't speak for anybody, but with my experience meeting him and spending time and seeing other people interact with him, what strikes me about him is, of course, he's skeptical and people label him a skeptic, and that's fine. I mean, I think, to be fair, the UFO topic is not his focus. Have there been some debates that maybe, he shouldn't have taken part in because he wasn't as knowledgeable as the other side? Well, that's debatable, pardon the pun, but I still think that his intelligence and his drive and his research angle still plays a role. And I think there's some synergy there with the work that they do in conjunction with the UFO community and what they do. So, I defend those guys. I'm not just singling him out. I mean, all the SETI guys, even those that are astronomers and astrobiologists that just kind of, shoo away anything to do with UFOs, that's fine. That's just not their angle, and they are at a point in their life that they just don't believe that UFOs are here, meaning an extraterrestrial presence is here. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not a 100% believer myself. Why? Because I've never seen it. But that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I hope. Erica, don't say anything. Can we cut her mic, please? But no, I think that being skeptical is good. You can be a skeptic, and I still think that's good because, again, that challenges me to really go after that proof, that truth. I truly believe that the evidence to 100% put the UFO question to bed and say that this definitely is an extraterrestrial presence, the evidence is not there. Now, I could be crucified by Erica or whomever that's listening.
No.
I believe wholeheartedly that the evidence exists, that we should take this topic very seriously, that we should entertain the possibility that it's extraterrestrially connected, but to prove it, it's not there. And I think that that's where a lot of scientists who, I'm not a scientist, but having dealt with many of them and seeing that they just think differently in the sense that they are nuts and bolts kind of people that they need to see to believe. I can relate to that part because, again, I'm not a 100% believer that alien life is visiting here because I've never seen it. But I believe the evidence is there that warrants my further investigation. And I've always tried to convey that if anybody has any kind of interest in this whatsoever, they should pursue it as well, because I think that there's enough evidence to go that far.
Well, and I have to just say that I don't know if what we're necessarily dealing with is extraterrestrial. And sometimes I wonder, because we're kind of jumping on that bandwagon, if we're not, the magician thing you were talking about, look over here when it's right here. And, Robert Bigelow, the aerospace tycoon, was on 60 Minutes and was asked about that. And the reporter said, "Where are they?" And he said, "They're right under our noses." Mm-hmm. So, are we looking up when we should be looking right in front of us? I really believe that we are. And I think sometimes reaching to that ET hypothesis might not be the best way to go.
But, it's a great question on if alien life was here, would we be able to comprehend it anyway? And I think that you can answer this a couple of different ways. And I always use the caveman analogy when I talk about this, because I think that if we were able to travel back in time to the time of the cavemen and see how they lived and what they were, it's a largely unwritten record for us, right? We have a couple cave paintings here and there. We don't really know who or what they were. So would we watch, or would we go down and plant a flag and say, we are from, X amount of years from now, we come in peace, we'd love to communicate? Which one would we do? And so, in my opinion, we would watch, we would, learn, we would see what's going on, because they couldn't comprehend essentially what was in front of them. And I think that largely goes to answering whether or not they're around us. Do I believe they are? Meaning walking and talking around us, like some people have claimed? No, I don't. I don't believe that. But if they were, would we be able to recognize it? And that's a different question. I mean, of course, if they were 6 feet tall and looked like a lizard, then yeah, okay, maybe we'd be able to comprehend that. And
I dated a few of those.
Yeah, they're out there at some bars. But I think where some of these theories go is to a much different place. And I think that different place is to a place that we could not, as a human race in the 21st century, comprehend. So I think with that respect, we probably wouldn't even notice they're there.
Right. And I think that some of the people that have been doing this for a long time, I mean, Jacques Vallée and Hal Puthoff, Kit Green, I mean, they understand that there is something that is interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial, or at least this is what I think, especially Vallée's thought is. And I think that, to me, it is much more insidious. It isn't tangible. We're not looking at, we're expecting whatever this is to look and talk like us and to behave like us and respond like us. And that's not what we're seeing. And we need to, in my opinion, be a little bit more progressive with our approach. And Ted Rowe and I have had many conversations about this, and view it more as being this is a tactical response instead of just sitting around and twiddling our thumbs and saying, okay, great. Is this true? Is this not true? Well, in my opinion, we have enough evidence to say there's something intelligent that's interacting with us. So do we want to sit around and argue over this, or do we want to come together as intelligent people and strategize on how we're going to deal with this and deal with it effectively?
Yeah, and I think that the evidence to really support that isn't there yet. I mean, I still think that we have to work hard to get the evidence to truly convert those that are skeptical but open. And I don't think that we're there yet. Now, you may disagree with me on that, but I think that we're still a little bit far away from that point.
But let me ask you, what is evidence? Because everybody has a different viewpoint on this, and that's what's so challenging. What would it take to convince you?
Well, I think that we have to have some kind of, you pick it. It could be a video evidence. It could be photographic evidence. I mean, are there some crazy things out there? Yeah, absolutely. But where I just moved to a couple months ago, I'm very blessed to have a very dark neighborhood now. And you see things in the sky that you can't explain, but it doesn't mean that they're not explainable. And no, I'm not saying I see UFOs. What I'm trying to say is you can see aircraft and this and that in ways where you go, oh, I can see if you took a picture at a certain angle in that 2-second period where it's at this angle with the sun setting at just the right angle, you can make that look very, very interesting. And yet 12 seconds later, you see Southwest Airlines on the side of it and you go, oh, okay. My whole point is that you have to question what's really out there at this point, because if you catch something at the right angle, at the right time, you can make something look like something it's not. We need to get beyond that and get a piece of tangible evidence that we just can't sit and twiddle our thumbs and debate until our eyes bleed, because we don't have an exact answer, but it could be a UFO, but it could be alien, but it could be a commercial airliner. We're not really sure, so let's just lean towards it's a UFO. That is not helping our case with those that are skeptical and are just kind of laughing at the evidence that's put. So to go back to your question, what do we need? We need something that is starting to get to borderline irrefutable. And I don't think we have that. Documents from the U.S. government, they help, but they're not 100% definitive proof. The video, cell phone videos and all that stuff that are out there floating around, and the viral stuff that goes, that's not helping. So I think that we're lacking that real piece of evidence that is beyond debate, that this is something that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that this is extraterrestrial.
Well, I think that, and this is my thought, I think that sometimes we are resting our laurels on the fact that we're looking for that one golden nugget. It's the one case that will blow the lid off of everything. And in my opinion, we have witness testimony. This goes back thousands of years. We have got people telling the same story over and over again, people that are separated and would not be doing this. There's just too much here. And so I don't know why, to me, it's like, I don't know why we dismiss that when there is more evidence for this, more scientific evidence, more declassified documents from the government. We have more evidence than it would take to convict somebody and sentence them to death. So I don't understand what the holdup is.
Well, I think I would argue that one. I think we have a lot of evidence to support further investigation. I think there's things that just can't be explained. I think we can look at the evidence that's out there and take every skeptical point of view, any possible explanation of what a Earth-based explanation could or would be, and etch them off the list one by one. And we are left with an extraterrestrial presence being one of the only ones left. The problem in my mind is, especially this day and age, is you have so much crud out there that it really muddies the water. Evidence supports further investigation. Yes. Does evidence support the existence? I don't think we're there yet.
Well, but I think what we need to do, and I've said this a million times, we have data that is proving, that is showing that there have been decades or hundreds of years of sightings in specific areas. So what we need to do is quit looking on YouTube and get in there and conduct field research. I mean, that's
Yep, you're absolutely
right. So
that's
a good thing you said that towards the close of the show, because I might have to be a little spicy.
No, you shouldn't be. But you're absolutely right. But you're also supporting what I'm saying in the sense that the evidence is there to support further investigation.
Right.
There is too much attention on the YouTube videos and this and that. And, this, I'll name it by name because I'm pretty vocal about it. The channels like Secure Team 10 and some of those other guys who get millions of hits and are often quoted in the British tabloids, and then it gains traction and people post these, ridiculous videos. That doesn't make the field look good. But you're absolutely right. There should be more focus on field research and getting out there with cameras and pointing to the sky instead of pressing play on YouTube. No argument there.
Absolutely. Yep, not to cut you off.
Worries. No.
But I will. I might.
You're the host. Your name's on the wall. It's okay.
Oh, Lordy. And it's probably spelled wrong.
Uh-huh.
No, so I have to ask you, because we've got a question that I want to ask you from Libertas, but I want to ask you, just give me the 2-minute rundown on, do you think that large organizations are effective in educating humanity?
Well, I think they're effective, but sadly, politics gets in the way on a lot of these organizations. The original vision of something is excellent and something that I think we need more of. And as time passes, politics infiltrate, egos infiltrate, and then in the end, you just kind of have not so good of a vision anymore. So I'm not going to single out any organization, but I think that that's what you see on the larger scale, meaning those bigger, more in the spotlight focuses, those types of groups. On a smaller scale, I mean, not to tease, but something that I'm putting together now is something that I'm tired of seeing in the field, and that is all those politics and egos and this and that. And I'm kind of sick of it. So what I've been working on the last couple of months, and I'm about to launch, is a true focused, common sense, logical research attack on the UFO topic, bringing together some individuals, not the ones that you see, on television every 12 seconds, there's nothing wrong with that, but truly those that want to take this topic seriously and tackle the new cases. And I want to put together that effort. And I've designed a system that I think will be very beneficial, and hoping to bring quite a few different people on board. But to your question, I think original visions of those larger public education groups are definitely worth it and worthwhile and needed. But sadly, over time, politics and ego just ruins the whole thing. So what I've done is trying to redo that and bring together some people so we can take a very serious approach and do this the right way.
And I think that is so important. And I know that there are people that are ready to do that. And I think sometimes having a smaller group that's more streamlined is much more effective. And then you don't have to worry about, raising money for membership and doing all of these things. You can really focus on the research. And we're going to be excited to hear about how that unfolds for you. Congratulations. That's very, very cool.
No, thank you. And that's one thing that I think is going to be very beneficial. And I'd love to work with some of the other people that are out there that are groups that we hear about a lot. Whether or not they'll work back, I'm not really sure. But again, it's just a common sense approach for public education, which I think is sorely needed, field investigation, which I think is sorely needed, and just a logical way to look at it, because I think logic has largely gone out the window with a lot of these things. And I think some of the YouTube channels that garner millions of hits, not that there's anything wrong with that, and all the more power to them. Sadly, the information that they're putting out there and the videos and the pretty obvious CGI graphics. I mean, I've worked in television a long time. I know what CGI looks like. I pay tens of thousands of dollars for CGI clips. You look at some of these things, and yeah, they're very good. The producer hat in me I put on my producer hat and I look at it and go, wow, I'd like to hire that guy. I put on my UFO hat and I want to strangle that guy because, he's putting this out there as being real and that he's, getting all this information when in reality, I'm sorry, man, no, you're not. It's a YouTube channel and they're going for the ad dollars and, they're making literally thousands of dollars a month just because people are clicking on those videos. That's what's hurting. That's what I want to get away from. I think we need to just really buckle down, take the topic seriously, get serious people involved that don't care about their ego, that don't care whether or not you're going to pay, $3,000 a year to me or not. It's taking it seriously, getting involved, and doing it right.
Well, and I absolutely agree. And I think it's taking a progressive approach because we know that, you can, when you've got, how many different people investigating and you've got different levels of education, I mean, the data that's going into a database is not necessarily, it won't hold up. And so I think that it's important to really get good equipment, to train everybody on that equipment, to get them out there, and then moving forward in a progressive way instead of just sitting behind a computer or talking to witnesses 5 days after the case has happened. I think that this is really important, and I think that there is a need, and people want that to happen because we see so many dysfunctional things taking place in the field right now, and they're good people, and we deserve to move forward in a really positive way. So, yay!
Yeah, and I'll tease you with one more thing that I think is worth mentioning, but also what this field needs is the system that I've developed and the technical infrastructure on this. I won't bore you to death with that side, but when investigators get involved with this project, what I've kind of figured out, and I believe Tina mentioned it during a break, about the need to get the raw information, that raw data, the high resolution version of all these like thumbnail pictures that we see all the time, and witnesses very rarely give that out. The system that I've built integrates all of that into the case files, including all the work of the researcher. So if somebody's out there in the field and they take a 2-hour video, it's got the ability to house all of that. That written report that they take the time to create because they were the ones out there, they were the boots on the ground, it has the ability to upload all that. So when somebody goes to learn about that UFO that was seen in the middle of Utah and Erica went out and investigated it, they'll be able to see all of that work all in one place, the raw video, the raw work, and truly give credit where credit is due. Because I also see that a lot in this field, that those that are really doing a lot of hard work, they go out there, do all the work, and then all that work just like disappears. What, that person spent a lot of time on that. What happened? And I've heard that, firsthand on quite a few occasions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking because I can't tell you, this isn't cheap and it takes a lot of time to do. So for somebody to volunteer and go out and do that, hey man, I'm gonna profile that as much as I can because that's amazing. And so that's the system that I've kind of developed to really integrate every aspect that you'd want to see in a UFO investigation. It can be all in one page.
Well, and you're supporting people, and that's the thing. There's so many people with specific skill sets, and each of us can lend so much importance to this and really make a difference. And I commend you so much because that's what we need. A big recognition, support, and moving forward in a progressive manner. That's so rad.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm excited about it. And it's taken a long time to develop, and I think it's going to be worthwhile, and it's something that we need, and it's something that will really kind of, in my opinion, take this field potentially to the next level when it comes to documenting the evidence and really making a resource that people can use and people can identify certain, Earth-based objects, so it can be a reference point, but also archive all that important stuff too.
Oh, so have you announced this before?
I haven't.
Oh.
See, you pulled it out of me.
Oh, I'm so happy.
So you pulled it out of me, but all of it is kind of unfolding, right now. And I've been talking to a select few that I trust highly in the field, that I want their opinions and what does it need, what doesn't it need. And I should hopefully be able to kind of start unrolling it here in the next few weeks and definitely months to really show the public, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and see who else wants to be involved. I mean, if anybody that's listening wants to be involved, let me know. Just go to theblackvault.com. All the contact pages go to me. I'm the only one that runs it, sadly, and I'll get it. But I'm looking for people that are serious about this, because I think that's what this field needs. And definitely check the ego at the door.
Oh no, and you are so incredible, and just you have a passion for this, and you care genuinely. So anybody, I have to tell you, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.
And I knew this was going to be wonderful, so we'll have to have you back. I want to tell all of my listeners, thank you so much for being here and supporting UFO Classified. Go to theblackvault.com. Definitely let John know if you are interested. Have a safe weekend, and I'll check you out next Friday.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.